The market has absolutely changed. So we're no longer in the market where you can just throw a property on the market and expect to get over asking, especially if you're not doing any marketing. We're now in a market that requires skill-based agents to be able to get you the most money possible. That's exactly what we're going to talk about today. So my name is Hunter Gann, and I'm here to blow your mind about how we do that for our clients. So we're not just selling properties. What I always like to tell people is we consider ourselves a marketing agency first, and then a real estate agent second. So we're crushing it with this approach by getting our sellers on average 6 to 9% more than the rest of the market's getting their clients. So putting that into perspective for you, if we're talking about a $500,000 property, then we're talking about a net difference of close to $45,000 at closing. And so if we're looking at $1 million home, that's literally $90,000 difference. So I'm going to share with you my top 3 secrets that we know, few people know, and it gets properties sold for the most money possible, and you're about to know them. So let's dive right on in. So number 1 is that the best buyers are already shopping for your property. We just have to interrupt them from getting to the portal sites and getting them to all other platforms first, and make sure that they are in our world first. So I always tell my clients that when we're taking a listing and they've already been marketing to that listing, because we've got over 7,000 active shoppers, active buyers that are looking for properties at any given price point, any given time, all throughout Kentucky. So we can actually filter down based off a lot of that criteria on who's actively shopping for properties just like yours. Most agents follow what I call the 3 Ps of real estate. They put it on the market, the MLS, they put a sign in the yard, and they might do some professional photos. Throw in a 4th bonus P, they pray and hope somebody's going to give them an offer. And the reality is the ones that have a presentation that they practice will also tell you that when they list your property is going to get distributed to 500 different websites, 19 different languages. You've heard that before, right? But I'm here to tell you that no matter who you list with, the MLS does that for everybody automatically. So there's nothing different about that. The challenge with doing it that way is that when the property gets listed and it goes on the market, all of those platforms are distributing your listing and then selling to the highest bidder, which is another agent. So that means if somebody reaches out about your property, all that's going to happen is that lead is going to get sold to another agent who's willing to pay the most money for that specific lead. And it's probably going to be someone who knows nothing about selling your property, nothing about your home and how you've lived in it, etc. So being distributed to 1 million different websites is great for exposure, but that's not actually what gets properties sold. So we take a different approach. First, by focusing on nurturing our own database and being really intentional about understanding exactly what they're looking for, so that when we have a property come on the market, we're separating that property out of the noise of retail and all the different portals that are sending them different places and not shopping elsewhere, but staying with us and having an agent that knows about that property, right? Number 2 is that speed is absolutely mattered in regards to buyers. If you ever reached out to a real estate agent and they didn't get back to you, what'd you do? Probably like, okay, whatever. I'll go reach out to somebody else, or I'll just forget about the property and move on to another. You don't want that as a home seller. So the science actually backs that up. In fact, the stats show that a lead has responded within 5 minutes is actually 400% less likely to convert. So that speed is incredibly important. Now, the most important thing here is that a solo agent is very likely not going to be able to have that level of responsiveness or that level of speed, not like I do with a team. Able to get that buyer into your property as quick as possible, and with an offer on the table much faster and simpler because of that speed to response. And secret number 3 is that there's only 2 emotions that drive us to make decisions, like making an offer on a property and doing it quickly and aggressively, and that's scarcity and urgency. So think about during the pandemic when literally everybody, their mom, their grandpa, their dog, and their cousin were all trying to buy property. Remember that? Everyone was willing to be super aggressive because everybody wanted to get an offer accepted. Even since long before the pandemic, we've actually been driving that kind of buzz and urgency. And the way that we do that is through our listing launch events. So when we put a property on the market, we do a lot of pre-marketing. We do a lot of marketing when that property first comes live, and we hold all of the showings until our listing launch event. So because of that, when they're all coming to the listing launch event and the buyer's walking through, and you see a family in the living room decorating how they would, rearrange your furniture, and you have another buyer in the kitchen talking about how they can't wait to X, Y, or Z, put their couch there, cook all their foods and family traditions and stuff. You got another buyer outside, their agent who's talking about making an offer. That's urgency, that's scarcity. That draws attention and a bidding war. So the benefit to you as the seller is that instead of a buyer competing against you, the buyers are actually competing against each other, kind of like an open house. So ultimately, in the end, you end up winning. And for those of you who are thinking like, okay, well, I only need one buyer. The challenge with only having one buyer is oftentimes they know they're the only buyer. So without a backup, if they get their offer accepted, they'll rip you to shreds during the negotiations of inspections and appraisals and all the other little things that go against you as a seller. With a bunch of offers on the table, the buyer knows they can't do that. So you actually end up winning again in the end. So here's the bonus. Financing needs to be flexible, and you need to be able to offer creative financing, especially as we start to see a lot more properties come on the market. So you are going to start seeing that the economy starts to tighten. Financing is going to get harder for buyers. So instead of just offering the traditional financing, what we've actually done is built relationships with lenders that do alternative types of financing for self-employed people, for foreign nationals, etc., unique buyers. That way, we're able to take the existing buyer pool and expand it because we know how to work with those types of transactions. So that is your 4 secrets. And now you're probably thinking, okay, that sounds great, but how much are you going to sell my house for? And that's a really good question. And that's exactly why on this page, you're going to see the link to my page, my information, because there's a lot of psychology that kicks in there and makes it so urgent, so scarce that now if they don't move quickly enough and they're not aggressive enough, then they know they're going to end up losing it. You can pick a time for us to chat. Now, I want to be very clear. We're not into high pressure sales. I'm not here to push you, rush you, force you to do anything you don't want to do. I really believe it's an absolute yes or it's an absolute no. So this is a very non-zero commitment, here for you to provide educational, informational purposes only. And what I'll caution you though is the fact that the market is shifting. So putting all the options on the table and knowing what that looks like for you now versus if you were to wait 3 or 6 months or a year, if you were to do the upgrades to the property versus not, those are all the things we're going to talk about and sort through to make sure it's the best decision for you. So go ahead and pick a time to meet. I'm super, super pumped to meet you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you. So have a great one. Hunter Gann here. Bye-bye.